Well, a good question here from Gary. Thank you for your question, Gary, and it's quite a long one, but I'll read it out. He says, with the poor prize money for winners of races, I think we should say that's in the UK specifically, are we to expect that the only chance to recover training costs is to cover the cost by laying the horse out for a gamble in certain races, because there's no such thing as a good thing, which we may presume, looking at the form of cloth cap as an example in the National, when it was an alleged handicap good thing but didn't turn out that way. Well, there's two questions there really. Firstly, I'm not going to get drawn into the cloth cap situation because we are talking about the Grand National and we know he had a stone in hand, but he possibly wasn't at his best. Something may have happened to him. But the main question is about the chance of recovering training costs. Well, you can't get a horse trained for much less than £25,000, taking everything into account in this day and age. And it's going to be hard for anyone to try to win £25,000 with a single bet unless they have sources or means of doing so known only to them. You certainly will struggle to go on the internet the night before and have much more than £50 on a horse without moving the price significantly, and that will alert the bookmakers to the support for the horse and they'll cut the price accordingly. So unless you're planning some kind of Barney Curly multiple plan involving the horse, the thing to say about recovering training costs is it's a question of how you get the money on. If you talk about training costs being £25,000 a year, and say, for example, the horse costs £20,000 a year, trying to bet to win £50,000, well, I'm sure you'd like to get 10 to 1 your money, but in reality, you'll probably get a single figure price. So you're trying to lay between £5,000 and £10,000 out, which isn't that easy in this day and age. But underlying all this is I don't think there are that many people who do expect to gamble and recover the expense of buying a horse and keeping a horse through training. It seems to me that most of the people I know, certainly when it comes to my racing clubs and my hundreds of clients I've had over the years, that if they enter racehorse ownership, they don't expect to win money. They don't expect it to pay. They're there for the enjoyment and the collateral benefits, the fun and the being involved. And they may have a bet on the horse, but it's not going to be a significant bet of any note. I think overall, in my experience, and I can't name names, but there are fewer people I know these days who do bets in significant sums to win that sort of money. Maybe 20, 30 years ago, it happened more when bookmakers were, it seems, more willing to take a bet on a horse. And I do recall days 30, 40 years ago when I had a friend who liked a substantial bet, and we get in the car or get on the train and go to the races and synchronize watches and have a bet, divide the bet up between 5 or 10 people, as he had a team who worked for him, and he'd say, okay, at 5 to 4 in the 4 o'clock race, I want you to all go in with your £500, and that's how I used to get money on. I remember we had a sting one day at Hexham, and that was a synchronized operation, and the horse duly won, and we managed to get about 6 to 1 our money. But those days are gone now, apart from the fact during lockdown there's not been any bookmakers on the race course, but you're not going to be able to do that this day and age, and that's in my experience. I mean, I do hear of people who do land touches. We've had some notable examples in Ireland of big figure bets and big figure touches at big figure prices in the last few months, but that's relatively unusual. And I don't think, from my experience, from the little bit of knowledge I have about this and the insight I have through some of my contacts, that the sums won are not as significant as the press and the bookmakers sometimes make out. But overall, Gary, in answer to your question, in this day and age, I think there are very few people who expect to win the cost and outlay of owning a racehorse from a single bet. Thank you.